My daughter said we were going on a trip, then left me at a nursing home, so I left her with nothing. She even helped me pack. I wore my nicest blouse and smiled the whole car ride. I thought maybe for once she just wanted to spend time with me. But when we pulled up to the nursing home and she grabbed my bag without looking me in the eye, I knew she wasn't bringing me anywhere. She was leaving me. Before I begin, thank you for listening to my story. Let me know in the comments where and what time you're tuning in from. It means more than you know. It reminds me that I'm not alone in this. And if you'd like to share your story with me, feel free to email it. I'll drop my email in the description below. Now let me tell you what really happened. My daughter said we were going on a trip. She said it casually like it was just another errand or an overdue mother-daughter weekend. Just pack light, Mama, Tamara had said, her voice syrupy sweet over the phone. We'll be back before you know it. I remember holding the phone to my chest after she hung up, whispering to the silence in my kitchen. She remembered me. It had been months since she visited, a year since she stayed longer than a quick hello. But suddenly she wanted time. Suddenly I mattered again. I packed 2 outfits, my Bible, and the gold brooch Marcus gave me for our 30th anniversary. I placed my slippers carefully in a plastic bag and tucked in a photo of Tamara when she was 5, missing teeth and all, with pigtails I used to braid every Sunday night. I looked around my home, the house Marcus and I had built from scratch, and felt something stir in my chest. Hope. Maybe we were turning a corner. Maybe my only daughter remembered who I was, what we'd been to each other. Tamara pulled up in a shiny black SUV I'd never seen before. Her sunglasses were too big for her face. Her hair slicked back like the girls on television. She beeped the horn twice and didn't get out of the car. When I opened the passenger door, she smiled. It was a stiff smile, the kind you give a coworker at a funeral. Ready? She asked, not looking at me. Where are we going? It's a surprise, she said. Just ride, Mama. So I rode. For 2 hours. The car smelled like leather and perfume I didn't recognize. Tamara tapped the steering wheel every few minutes, a nervous rhythm that told me more than her silence. I asked again. She waved her hand and said, somewhere peaceful. You've been stressed. You need rest. I stared at the road ahead. Flat highways and long silences. My stomach sank, but I ignored it because that's what mothers do. We ignore things when it comes to our children. Even the things that hurt. When we pulled off the highway, I saw it. A squat building with beige bricks, rusted window frames, and a peeling green sign that read Pine Hill Assisted Living. There was no luggage cart, no welcome banner, just a nurse in scrubs holding a clipboard and a smile too wide to trust. Tamara parked in front of the sliding doors and got out without a word. I didn't move. Not until she opened my door and grabbed my bag. Tamara, I said. What is this? She looked past me like I wasn't even there. Let's just go inside. Just for a little bit. Is this a nursing home? She didn't answer, just walked toward the entrance like she was late for a meeting. Inside, it smelled like bleach and boiled cabbage. A man in a wheelchair stared at a flickering television. A nurse walked by with a tray of pills. I stood frozen in the lobby, my purse slipping off my shoulder. A woman behind the front desk looked up. You must be Evelyn. We've got everything ready. Ready? Tamara handed her a manila envelope. All the paperwork's in there. I stepped forward. What paperwork? Tamara smiled. Mama, you've been forgetting things. You left the stove on last week. You got lost in the grocery store. You need help. I didn't get lost. I was reading the labels. You were in the parking lot crying. I swallowed hard. That was one time. And the stove. You left the burner on with a towel nearby. That was a power surge. You know that. She turned to the nurse. She gets confused sometimes. I felt the ground tilt under me. My knees went weak and I grabbed the edge of the counter. I don't want to stay here, I whispered. Tamara didn't look at me. It's just temporary. Until you're stable. Stable? I'm not. She looked at her watch. I have to go. Go where? Work. But you told me this was a trip. She sighed. Mama, don't make this harder than it has to be. They'll take care of you. You're my only child, I said, my voice cracking. There's no one else. She paused at the door. Exactly. And then she was gone. Just like that. I stood there trembling while a stranger led me to a room with plastic flowers and a window that didn't open. If you think a mother deserves better than this, write mother in the comments. If not, write 1. But be honest with yourself about what you do. That night, I stared at the ceiling and tried to remember where the sky went. I held the brooch Marcus gave me and cried like I hadn't cried since his funeral. The pain in my chest wasn't just betrayal. It was grief. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that settles in your bones. I thought of the years I'd worked double shifts so Tamara could have dance classes. The nights I stayed up sewing costumes. The meals I skipped so she could eat better. I thought of the day she got her first job and how proud I was. How I bought her a silver bracelet even though my rent was late. I never asked her for anything. Never made her feel guilty for moving away. Never reminded her of the sacrifices because that's what mothers do. We give even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. But now as I lay in that strange bed with thin sheets and strange voices in the hallway, I realized something I never wanted to believe. Tamara didn't leave me here because she was overwhelmed. She left me here because it was easier. Easier to forget me, easier to claim the house, easier to move on. And for the first time in my life, I let myself feel the full weight of that truth. I cried until the sun came up. And then I didn't cry at all. The sun crept in through the blinds, striping the room in long lines of yellow and gray. I didn't move. I lay in the same position I had fallen asleep in, if you could call what I did last night sleep. My eyes had been closed, but my mind never rested. My chest ached in a way no medicine could fix. Grief. That was all it was. A grief worse than death. Because death is final. Betrayal lingers. A knock came. Then a nurse entered with a tray. "Good morning, Miss Mayfield," she said cheerily. "We've got oatmeal, applesauce, and decaf." I didn't respond. She placed the tray gently on the bedside table, fluffed my pillow, and left without forcing the conversation. She'd learned quickly. I didn't touch the food. I hadn't eaten more than a few bites in days. On the first day, I thought Tamara would return, explain everything, tell me it was a misunderstanding. On the second day, I waited by the window. By the third, I tried calling her. Straight to voicemail. On the fourth, I called again. Disconnected. By the fifth, I knew she had cut me off completely. No return, no rescue. I was a ghost and she had already grieved me. By the sixth day, I couldn't remember the last time I bathed. I didn't care. I let myself rot a little. I let the sheets tangle around me like vines. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how it had come to this. I was a mother who had given everything. I had worked 2 jobs to make sure Tamara had what she needed. I had missed meals so she could eat seconds. I sewed her prom dress by hand because we couldn't afford one from the store. I smiled through heartbreak, through migraines, through the bone-deep loneliness after Marcus died. I never asked her for anything. Tamara was my only child. There were no cousins, no siblings, no second chance if she failed me. Just her. And I believed in her so completely. I excused every missed visit. I understood every forgotten birthday call. I clung to every brief moment she offered me like it was a blessing from heaven. I thought that was love. I thought patience would be enough. It wasn't. Now I was here in a place that smelled like bleach and sadness. Where people spoke to me like I was made of glass and medicine. Where no one called me mama. No one asked about Marcus. No one cared who I used to be. Here I was just a bed number in a file. I turned my face to the wall and let the tears come. I cried like a child. No restraint, no dignity. I cried until the pillowcase was damp and my throat hurt. The kind of crying that empties you, that leaves you hollow. Would you let this happen to your own mama? Tell me in the comments. I need to know there are still people out there who understand what family means. That evening, a different nurse came in. She didn't speak at first. She just sat in the chair beside my bed, crossed one leg over the other, and watched me quietly. "You've been here a week," she said finally. "Haven't eaten." Barely moved. I didn't answer. "My name's Carla. I'm head nurse on the night shift. I've seen a lot of mothers like you. Too many." I closed my eyes. She leaned forward. "You think you're the only one this happened to? You think you're the only mama who got tricked into packing a bag and walking into this place thinking you were going somewhere else?" My breath caught. They always say the same thing. Just a weekend, just a trip, just a checkup. Then they dump y'all here and walk away like you never raised them. My eyes opened. "I know what happened, Miss Evelyn. And I'm telling you right now, you're not crazy. You're not weak. You're hurt. And you've got every right to be." I tried to swallow, but my throat was dry. "You can sit here and wait for her to remember she has a mother. Or you can do something." "Do what?" I croaked. "Fight. I don't even know how." Carla reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She placed it gently on the tray beside my untouched oatmeal. "That's a name. Brenda Holloway. She's an attorney. Got my aunt out of here when her son did her the same way. Took her house, her pension, everything. Brenda made sure he never touched a dime again. I stared at the paper but didn't touch it. You're still in your right mind. You still got your name. Don't let them erase it. Don't let your daughter cash in on your silence. She stood and walked to the door. You call her or you stay here and let this be your life. But don't you ever say no one tried to help. She left and the room was silent again. Except now something was different. The paper was still there, sitting heavy on the tray. I looked at it until my vision blurred. Brenda Holloway. I whispered the name to myself over and over like a prayer. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair by the window and held the paper in my hand until dawn. I thought about Tamara's face when she was little. The way she used to run into my arms after school. The way she'd cry if I ever missed one of her school performances. How had that little girl grown into a woman who could lie so easily? I thought about Marcus, about the house we built, the sacrifices we made. He would have never let this happen. He would have told me to get up, to stand straight, to remember who I was. In the morning, I put on my slippers. I brushed my hair. I washed my face. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I hadn't seen in days. Someone with fire left. I asked the front desk for a private phone call. They looked surprised, but they brought the cordless to my room. I sat down and dialed the number Carla had given me. My hands shook as I pressed each button. It rang 3 times. Then a woman's voice answered, calm and crisp. This is Brenda Holloway. I swallowed hard. My name is Evelyn Mayfield. I was placed in a nursing home by my daughter without my permission. She told me we were going on a trip. I don't want to be here. I never agreed to any of this. There was a pause. Then she said, tell me everything. And I did. I told her about Tamara, about the house, about the lies, about the way my name had been used like a tool, like it meant nothing. She didn't interrupt, didn't gasp. She just listened. By the time I finished, my voice was shaking. Brenda said, I'll be there tomorrow morning. We'll start with revoking power of attorney and freezing anything she tried to touch. You're not alone in this, Mrs. Mayfield. We're going to take your life back. I sat there for a moment after she hung up. Later that night, Carla peeked in. I didn't speak. I just held up the folded paper with Brenda's name on it. She smiled and gave me a nod. I was still hurting, but now I had a name. Now I had a plan. Like, comment, and subscribe because stories like mine deserve to be heard. And if you're sitting there thinking this could never happen to you, think again. Sometimes the people we love most are the ones who know exactly where to aim. Brenda Holloway arrived just before noon wearing a navy pantsuit and a look that told the world she didn't come to play. She was shorter than I expected with tight coils of salt and pepper hair and eyes that didn't blink more than necessary. She walked into my room like she already owned it and sat down across from me without waiting to be offered a seat. You look better than I imagined, she said. That's a compliment. Most people I meet in your situation are still sedated or silenced. I raised an eyebrow. I've been both, just not today. She gave a single nod, then opened a thick manila folder. Let me tell you what I already know. Your daughter, Tamara Bennett, filed for medical power of attorney 2 months ago, claiming you had early-stage cognitive decline. She presented one signed doctor's note and a pharmacy receipt for a vitamin supplement, which she tried to use as proof you'd been prescribed memory support meds. That's a lie, I said. I know, she replied. She used that documentation to open a legal file with a probate attorney in her district. She listed herself as your next of kin and she began steps to liquidate your assets, starting with your house. I felt a sharp twist in my gut. You mean she actually tried to sell it? She had a verbal agreement with a buyer. The sale wasn't finalized, but the paperwork was in motion. We froze it just in time. I blinked, my mouth suddenly dry. And she used my name for all of this? She did, but she won't again. Brenda flipped through her folder. Your pension, we're rerouting it back to your personal account. Your property, Tamara's claim on it is being challenged as fraudulent. She submitted signatures that don't match your medical records. We'll get those voided. I looked down at my hands. I trusted her. She told me we were going on a trip. Brenda closed the folder. Miss Mayfield, I've been doing this for 18 years. And let me tell you something. You're not alone. You'd be surprised how many daughters and sons, educated, church-going, smiling to the world, have a little predator inside them. What your daughter did wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. I felt the heat rise behind my eyes again. She didn't even call me after. She didn't check in. Just left me here like I was nothing. Because to her, you're not a person. Your paperwork, a name attached to money and property. We're going to change that, and not just legally. Brenda reached into her briefcase and pulled out a second folder. I need you to start writing everything you remember. The conversations, the dates, what she told you. If a nurse heard her say it was just a trip, write it down. If there were witnesses at the house or neighbors who saw her pack your things, write it down. Every detail matters. Carla walked in with a cup of tea and gave me a quiet nod. She glanced at Brenda and said, "This the lady?" "She's the one," I said, managing a weak smile. Carla turned to Brenda. "If you need anything from the staff side, let me know. I've seen what this place does to people like Miss Evelyn. Most of them never get back out. She's lucky you showed up." "I don't believe in luck," Brenda said. "Just timing and evidence." After Carla left, I took the pen Brenda offered and wrote my name at the top of the page. I paused, staring at the lines below. My hands were trembling, but not from fear this time. It was something else. A pulse of vibration, the beginning of something strong rising inside me. I wrote down the date Tamara called me. The way she said to pack light. I wrote down the last conversation we had before she dropped me off. I remembered her saying, "You've been forgetting things," as if I were a burden, not a mother. I wrote until my fingers cramped. Brenda scanned the notes and nodded. "Good start. We'll add affidavits and subpoena records if necessary. This won't just be a reversal. It'll be a message." "What kind of message?" "The kind that tells your daughter she messed with the wrong woman." I couldn't help but let out a bitter chuckle. I never thought I'd be the kind of mother who needed a lawyer to protect her from her own child. Brenda softened just a bit. "You're not that kind of mother. You're the kind of mother who gave everything and asked for nothing. That's exactly why women like you become targets." But that stops now. That night, I sat up in bed for the first time since I'd arrived. Carla brought me a warm dinner and said, "You eating now? That must mean you're getting your fire back." I nodded. "I've got someone on my side now." She grinned. "No, you've got yourself on your side now. That's the difference." I ate every bite. Later, I picked up the pen again and kept writing. I remembered the phone bill that had gone unpaid when Tamara was in college and how I went without heat one winter just so she could study abroad. I remembered sewing her graduation dress by hand. I remembered all the ways I made my love invisible so hers could shine. She didn't abandon me because I failed her. She abandoned me because she thought I was too old to remember what she'd taken. But I remembered everything. Every lie, every detail. And soon so would the court. Share this with someone who needs a reminder. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it just means we're gathering strength for what comes next. Over the next 3 weeks, my name began to come back to me. Not just legally, but spiritually. Carla said I started walking different. The other residents noticed too. They used to whisper like I was one of the ones who'd lost their mind. Now they looked at me with curiosity like I might just make it out of this place. Brenda worked fast. She called me twice a week with updates, and each time her voice got sharper, more focused. "The house is safe for now," she said during our Tuesday call. "The pension deposits have been frozen from Tamara's account and we filed the petition to revoke her power of attorney. The hearing's scheduled in 30 days. 30 days. That was how long I had to wait before I could step back into my own life. Until then, I stayed quiet but alert. I listened. I watched. I kept a notebook hidden behind the radiator and filled it with every bit of useful information. Dates, staff comments, things Tamara had said the day she left me here. On day 12, I asked Carla if she remembered anything Tamara said when she checked me in. Carla tilted her head and said, "She told the receptionist you had early onset memory issues. Said you'd agreed to the placement, that you were just getting confused lately." I knew it was shady, but people say all kinds of things when they're abandoning someone. "Would you write that down?" I asked. "Gladly." Carla wrote a full statement on nursing home letterhead and gave it to me folded in half. I added it to Brenda's growing evidence pile. Every day that passed, I moved more intentionally. I brushed my own hair again. I walked the hallway on my own. I started making phone calls on the facility phone. Old friends, neighbors, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Every person I talked to was shocked to hear what had happened. A few had already seen the for sale sign Tamara posted on my front lawn. One neighbor even said she overheard Tamara telling a visitor that Mom wasn't doing well but she's comfortable now. Comfortable? That was the word she used after locking me away and trying to erase me from my own home. I shared all of this with Brenda. She wasn't surprised. She's already positioning herself as the grieving daughter. Brenda said that'll help us because once we show the court that you're not only competent but alert and active, she'll look like a manipulator. I wanted to ask what kind of punishment Tamara might face. But something in me couldn't get the words out. I wasn't sure I wanted her punished, at least not in the courtroom sense. I wanted her to feel what I felt. To feel discarded, powerless, forgotten. That was the kind of pain that changed a person. On day 16, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Tamara's. I opened it slowly, hand steady even though my heart had already dropped. Mama, I hope you're well. I'm sorry if things got messy. I was just trying to do what was best. I know it may not seem like it now, but I had good intentions. Maybe we can talk soon and sort this out. Love, Tamara. No apology, no explanation, just a vague defense wrapped in a lie. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in a clean envelope marked evidence. Then I wrote my own letter, just one line addressed to no one in particular. You took my trust and turned it into a weapon. I won't let you aim it at me again. That night, Carla brought me a warm cup of tea and a slice of lemon pound cake she made at home. She sat beside my bed and asked, "You ready for what's coming?" "I'm ready to go home," I said. "And if she shows up?" I looked her in the eye. "She can say whatever she wants, but she won't be walking back into my house. Not with keys, not with my blessing, and not with a single thread of inheritance." Carla grinned. "That's the Evelyn I've been waiting to see." I smiled just a little. That's the Evelyn I thought I lost. On day 21, Brenda called again. "Good news. We got confirmation. The judge has reviewed the documents and approved your immediate release from the facility pending the hearing. You're not under any legal hold. That means you can leave as soon as I get you." "When?" "I'll be there Thursday morning." I pressed the phone to my chest and closed my eyes. I whispered Marcus's name under my breath. I felt like I could finally breathe again. That night, I didn't sleep much. I packed my few belongings. My Bible, my slippers, Carla's letter, and my notebook. I folded my clothes like I was moving out of prison. In a way I was. On Thursday morning, I put on my best blouse, fixed my hair, and sat in the lobby with my chin lifted high. Brenda pulled up right on time in a dark blue sedan. She opened the passenger door like I was royalty. As we drove away from Pine Hill, I looked back one last time, not in sadness, but in clarity. That building never broke me, but it almost did. "You nervous?" Brenda asked. "No," I said. "I'm done being afraid." We drove in silence most of the way. When we pulled into my neighborhood, I felt my hands clench. I didn't know what I expected to find, but my house was still there. No lockbox, no moving truck, just a wind-blown for sale sign leaning against the porch. Brenda turned off the engine. "It's yours again, legally and spiritually." I stepped out slowly. The walkway was cracked in places, but it felt solid under my feet. I walked to the front door and inserted my key turned. Inside, the house was exactly as I'd left it. A little dusty but untouched. The furniture was there, the photos, even Marcus's favorite chair. But on the counter sat a second letter, my name on the front in the same handwriting. Another note from Tamara. I opened it and read the words carefully. "Sorry if things got messy. I was only trying to help. Let's talk." I folded it, walked to the fireplace, and burned it to ash. The smoke rose and twisted like a spirit finally set free. I stood in the doorway of my own kitchen and exhaled. I was home, and I was nobody's burden. The house felt smaller than I remembered, but maybe it was just quieter. The silence wasn't sharp like it had been in the nursing home. It was softer, familiar, like the house had waited for me, still and loyal through everything. I walked from room to room without turning on any lights, just letting the natural glow of the afternoon sun stretch across the wooden floors. Dust floated in the air like memories. Everything was still here. The armchair Marcus used to fall asleep in during the evening news. The photo of Tamara in her college graduation cap still sat on the bookshelf, slightly tilted. My kitchen towels, my curtains, even the jar of dried beans on the windowsill. I was back in the world I had built with my own hands. And for the first time in 2 months, I felt whole again. Brenda followed me in but didn't say much. She gave me space, standing by the doorway as I wandered like someone trying to remember who they used to be. When I finally turned to her, she asked, "You all right?" "I think I am," I said. "Or at least I will be." She nodded, then reached into her bag. "There's one more thing you should see." She handed me a copy of the formal complaint filed in court. At the top was Tamara's name, typed in bold. Beneath it, forged documents, unauthorized account access, abuse of power of attorney, fraudulent transfer attempts. There were witness statements, financial records, even the voicemail I left her, the one she never responded to. "The hearing's still set for next month," Brenda said. But with what we've submitted, the judge has already issued a temporary ruling. She's frozen out of everything. Bank accounts, property rights, even access to your medical decisions. You have full legal control again. I took the papers in my hands and felt a strange mix of relief and mourning. Mourning for the daughter I thought I had, the girl I'd raised, the one who used to beg me to stay a little longer when I tucked her in at night. And relief for the woman I had become, who now understood that love without respect is not love at all. I spent that night cleaning, not because the house was dirty, but because I needed to touch everything again. I needed to remind the walls and the floors and the cabinets that I was still here, that Evelyn Mayfield hadn't been erased. I found more letters in a drawer. Tamara's handwriting again. Unsent drafts maybe, or notes she wrote before everything spiraled. One read, she's not going to make it on her own. Another, once the paperwork clears, I can finally breathe. I stopped reading after that. I folded the pages and dropped them into the trash. Carla had once told me that some wounds you clean with silence. The next morning, I sat on my porch with a cup of coffee and called Carla at the nursing home. When she answered, I could hear the sounds of shift change behind her. The squeak of shoes, the rustle of paper gowns, a distant cough. "You made it," she said, voice full of pride. "I made it," I replied. "Thank you for everything." "You're the one who did the work," she said. "I just gave you a name. You did the rest." Still, I whispered, "You were the first person who made me feel like I wasn't crazy." "You weren't crazy," she said. "You were just surrounded by cowards." We said our goodbyes and I hung up. The sky was clear. The wind moved the tree branches slowly like an old gospel song. A few days later, a neighbor stopped by. Said he'd seen Tamara drive by the house twice but didn't get out. I nodded. I wasn't surprised. People like Tamara don't always show up to say sorry. Sometimes they just show up to see what's left. Let me know where you're listening from. I want to know who's still out there hearing women like me. Because this isn't just my story. It's happening everywhere to mothers and fathers who gave everything and got thrown away in return. 2 months after I came home, I heard from Brenda again. She moved out, she said over the phone. "Tamara?" I asked. "Yes." The realtor contacted me to confirm. "The condo is under investigation now. The down payment she used came from your pension withdrawals. She's being asked to repay it. Turns out forging documents has consequences." I sat very still. Is she homeless? She's couch surfing, last I heard. Staying with a friend. No job, no assets. Her accounts are frozen. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even smile. But I didn't feel sorry either. Let her find out what it means to be left behind. I was thrown away like I was nothing. Now she knows exactly what that feels like. That evening, I pulled out my old journal and flipped to the last page. I wrote a new will. Not the legal one that Brenda had already updated. This was a personal one, the kind that lives in the soul. "I gave you life," I wrote. "And when you tried to take mine, I gave you nothing." Then I closed the journal and poured myself a glass of lemonade. The sunset stretched across the sky like a second chance. I didn't get back everything I lost, but I got back the part of me she thought was gone. The courtroom smelled like dust and old paper. I sat in the front row beside Brenda, watching the judge flip through our file with a frown that deepened by the second. Across the aisle sat an empty chair. Tamara hadn't shown up. No attorney, no statement, just silence. It was almost insulting, the way she refused to face me even now. Brenda said it wasn't unusual. People like Tamara rarely believe the consequences would catch them. They live behind polite smiles, pretending what they did wasn't so bad until the law reminds them otherwise. The judge cleared his throat and looked down over his glasses. "I've reviewed the statements, medical records, financial documentation, and the witness testimony from Miss Carla and Miss Holloway. It's abundantly clear that Ms. Mayfield was placed into Pine Hill assisted living under false pretenses. The documentation provided to justify her admission was misleading, unauthorized, and in some cases forged." He paused and looked at me directly. "Miss Mayfield, I commend your resilience and your clarity in defending your rights." I nodded but said nothing. My hands were folded in my lap, palms warm and steady. Effective immediately, the judge continued, "Tamara Bennett is stripped of all rights pertaining to Ms. Mayfield's estate, finances, and care. The power of attorney is void. Her name is to be removed from all financial accounts and legal documents under Ms. Mayfield's control. Further, the court will issue a permanent protective order to prevent Ms. Bennett from accessing, selling, or claiming any assets belonging to Ms. Mayfield." Brenda didn't smile. She just leaned slightly toward me and whispered, "It's done." But I already knew. I had known the moment Tamara didn't show up. That was her admission. Not of guilt, but of shame. She couldn't sit in a room and face the woman she tried to disappear. As we left the courthouse, the sun hit my face in a way that made me close my eyes. Not to block the light, but to absorb it, to remember what it felt like to walk freely in the world without someone trying to speak over my name. I didn't say much on the ride home. Brenda gave me space, letting the quiet fill with victory instead of words. When I got home, I brewed a pot of tea and opened the living room window. The breeze carried the smell of cut grass and magnolia. It reminded me of Marcus, of porch mornings and gospel songs on the radio. I pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and began writing my new will by hand. Not the legal one Brenda had filed, but my personal legacy, the one I would leave behind in a place Tamara could never touch. To Carla, I left my wedding band. She had cared for me with more honesty than my own blood. To Brenda, I left my antique bookshelf and every journal I had written since Marcus passed. She had helped me recover not just my life but my voice. To the Literacy Foundation Marcus and I had supported for years, I left the house. Every brick, every creak, every piece of it. It was never just a building. It was a story, and stories deserve to live. And to Tamara, I left a single note, tucked into the pocket of the original will she had tried to rewrite. It said, "You taught me what love isn't." That was the last lesson I needed. I sealed everything in an envelope and placed it in my safe. Then I turned off the lights and stood in the middle of my kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the clock on the wall. Normal sounds, peaceful ones, sounds that told me I had survived. Later that week, I got a call from one of the neighbors. She said Tamara had been seen getting into a rideshare carrying 2 suitcases and looking like she hadn't slept in days. The condo she bought with my stolen pension money was under foreclosure, and the job she had lined up fell through once the fraud charges were filed. She was staying with a friend for now. No permanent address, no income. I didn't ask for more details. I didn't need to. That chapter was already closed. The mail came that afternoon. Nothing urgent. A grocery flyer. A letter from the senior center inviting me to an art class. I smiled at the thought of it. Paint and brushes and something new. I'd never painted before, but maybe it was time to learn how to create something just for me. I spent the evening on the porch with a notebook, jotting down recipes I hadn't made in years. Gumbo, peach cobbler, Marcus's favorite ribs. I would cook again. I would invite people into my home again, not to care for them, but to celebrate with them, to live fully and without fear. Around 9 o'clock, I turned on the porch light and locked the front door. I stood for a moment, hand resting on the frame, and looked around my living room. The house was quiet but not empty. It breathed with me, held me, remembered me. I lit a candle and placed it beside the photo of Marcus. I whispered, "I'm all right now." She didn't win. Then I sat down and watched the candle flicker in the dark. Outside, the wind stirred the trees gently. No noise, no more pretending, no more lies. Just peace. I didn't get everything back. Some things don't come back. But I got the one thing she thought I'd lost forever. I got myself. And that was more than enough. If you made it this far, you understand what it means to survive betrayal from the person you loved most. Like and subscribe so more people can hear stories like mine. Comment below and tell me, would you have fought back like I did? Or would you have stayed silent? And remember this, your name, your life, your dignity, they belong to you. No one, not even your own child, has the right to take them away.